Thank you, Chairman, Ranking Member Fox, and Secretary Cardona. Your department recently released this resource for students and families called Confronting Anti-LGBTQI+ Harassment in Schools. This document gives an example of harassment, which is a teacher telling students that there are only two genders, boys and girls. Before we start penalizing teachers for stating a genetic and biological fact about genders, can you please clarify for the committee how many genders there are?
So I know what you're asking, but I'm going to get to the root of what you're asking. I feel very strongly that as educators, it's our responsibility to protect all students.
You used as an example of harassment a teacher who stated there are only two genders, male and female. That's a genetic and biological fact. That is an example you're under your leadership that you are putting out to people. How many genders are there?
How would you respond to a student who is non-binary in your classroom?
But how many genders are there? Will you please state?
I won't be answering your question. You can continue your line of questioning.
Okay, well, this resource also says that preventing a male student from joining the sports team, see, can you pick out the male? The male student from joining a sports team designated for females constitutes harassment under Title IX. Mr. Secretary, can you please confirm that the department's interpretation of Title IX requires schools to allow transgender girls, in other words, biological males who claim to identify as female, but have significant advantages in size and strength to compete on female-only sports teams?
Title IX protects all students against sex discrimination or gender identity. All students, no exceptions.
So you're saying your interpretation is going to force girls to play against larger, stronger biological males in sports?
I think you're missing the point here where students need to feel welcome into our schools, and we need to create welcoming environments. And we recognize that sports and other extracurricular activities are opportunities for students to engage and build team building skills, set goals for themselves, and continue to thrive. I don't promote any type of discrimination toward any students, and Title IX reinforces that.
But it is promoting it when you use as an example that it's harassment to not allow biological males to participate in female sports, which will be the end of women's athletics.
That is incorrect.
Those of us who remember 7th grade biology were taught that there were only two sexes in the human species. Does the department plan to investigate and then penalize teachers under Title IX who continue to teach the biological fact that there are two sexes?
This is another example where it demonstrates a lack of confidence in our educators to be able to meet our students where they are and welcome them into school environments that are free of discrimination and harassment. Going back to my opening comments, when I heard from students at Harvey Milk School, they want schools that embrace them and welcome them and provide nurturing environments. That's what I'm going to stand behind 100%. Title IX reinforces that. And the students that I speak to that are in school today respect that and appreciate that, and they want that from their educators and their leaders. That's what they're going to get from me as Secretary of Education.
Your interpretation and leadership, preventing a student from using an opposite sex bathroom would constitute harassment under Title IX. Can you explain how schools are going to stop male students from claiming they identify as female just to access the girls' restroom? Do schools have the ability to challenge a student's professed gender identity to prevent sexual harassment in schools?
I have complete confidence in the educators across the country who have been dealing with this. This isn't new in our schools. I invite you to speak to educators across the country and visit a school where they've successfully created a sense of community while accepting students from transgender students and students who are not identified as transgender, who are able to learn together and support one another. We can learn a lot from our students and a lot from our schools.
Mr. Secretary, I'm truly shocked at your position on these issues. While I have nothing but sympathy for those who struggle with gender confusion, instead of offering these kids help, your department is planning to punish schools who attempt to protect girls' privacy and support female athletics. Our school administrators and teachers have better things to do than to enforce the Biden administration's extreme gender ideology. I am disappointed that you are advocating for a few students to feel safe, but not advocating for the majority of girls who will not feel safe or comfortable under your rules and guidance. I have 5 daughters. They would feel extremely uncomfortable either on the sports teams or in the locker rooms. And also, I want to remind you, as the former member brought up, 74% of Americans agree that you are on the wrong side of this issue. And also, it is true, if men are allowed to compete in women's sports, the sports will be dominated by men. Just in 2017, Olympic world and US champion Tori Bowie's 100-meter lifetime best of 10.78 seconds was beaten 15,000 times by men and boys.
The gentlelady's time has expired. Can you
Thank you.
finish up?
And I yield to Dr. Fox.